Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my wonderful 101 hardest difficulty video walkthrough. This is Operation 1B, and we're continuing on from the previous mission. We've got a couple of the Dogus and the Dogus or something. The names are insane. All you need to know is that the big fellas spawn little fellas, and all of them can be recruited if you get them low on life and they start glowing purple. And the recruit feature is essentially a way to build your wonderful ones into maximum 101 quicker than having to pick up hostages, as you've seen me do several times before. So he was glowing purple then before he blew up. That means we can recruit him. A couple of things I might not have mentioned that you need to know. You can pick items up with your underliner. You can use this to get to things that you wouldn't normally be able to reach, so it's incredibly useful to know. But here is the big fella with a couple of the small dudes. Every attack that this guy has can be blocked, except for when he goes enraged. And enraged is incredibly frustrating, as I miss my cyclone there and he falls. Because what happens is, you'll notice the more we kill this guy, the more his body disintegrates, and he starts to look a little bit like Meccano or Lego. And when he's in that form, he'll do a roar, and he'll get all super heated and red. He's kind of looking like it now. This is a jump attack. This can be Ghost. Fantastic opportunity to get him in another combo. But when he is enraged, if you touch him, it'll class as a stun on you, and you'll lose members of your team. This will obviously make you not able to do so many good attacks and things, and it'll make you vulnerable because you've got a smaller group around you. Also, he'll start doing big attacks that have AoEs. If you remember in the first video, I got pancaked by one of them because I just couldn't get away from it. I had no dodge. It was a rough place to be. It also has a lot of range because he's moving as he does the combo. That was me pancaked. See how I'm flattened and everyone else is? Nothing you can do about that, guys. If you get hit, you cannot Ukemi that. That was just literally that the tank was so goddamn fast. And I think this guy's called Ray Down instead of Ho Down because he has a laser on him. He's exactly like the other dudes, the difference being is he fires a laser. As I've already showed, to block the laser, all you have to do is put the sword on. You don't have to swing it, you just have to have Unite Sword in your hands, and it will reflect it, deal damage, and it'll do as you thought. He's going to charge when he does that. He rears up and then he charges very quickly. It's a really nice telegraph, and the game is incredibly fair in regards to most of its telegraphs. Some of them, the only time I would even say that it might frustrate people is when they're off the camera, because the camera on this game is about as good as it can be expected to be, but there are always going to be moments where it doesn't work in your favour, and you generally get a lot of people, especially the better players, who don't really have time for people who complain about things they've already learnt to put up with, who'll say something along the lines of, you know, you can control where the enemies go, you can kind of kite them, you can manipulate the game in such a way that you should never really be complaining about the camera. But it's all good and well to say that, it's a different story when it's happening, you know. Sometimes those tanks will drift off of screen, they'll drift off of camera, and as you try to cross distance to them and you can't see them, they'll hit you with something. And unless you're listening out for them and you hear the attack, you know, there's not much you can do because the attack is incredibly fast. So there are moments where you will get hit off of screen, and to avoid them, you literally have to know what kind of enemy does it, and you have to know which screens are the worst for it. And there's a terrible one inside of Vorken later on in the game, because there's a piece of geometry that they can go and sit behind, and sometimes you don't even know where they've gone, and the geometry only goes invisible when you go behind it, so they sit behind a piece of geometry and just shoot everything they want at you, which is kind of crazy. But here is the paragliding moments. I hate them. It controls like shit. Like, the easiest thing is to just not do anything, because you seem to mostly go exactly where you need to be. But I always try and like dive and come up and get height and things, and it generally doesn't work very well. It just kind of seems really silly. But here is the first real hint of a boss. Oh, and I just checked as well, guys. The Dura that we fought on the first level is a Guri Dura, the ones with the drill bits, which is interesting to know. This boss right here is called Gagujin. It's a name that I'm probably not going to remember the next time we fight him. All you have to do in this phase is you have to hit the orbs on his hand and avoid his attacks. His attacks are very simple to dodge. The trick to this is probably using the whip or the hammer or even the fist. I use the sword because it has the most range for the most, and sometimes it allows you to combo his face, but if you're going for style, and you're going for to kill this dude really quick to get, you know, the time requirement on perhaps the rank, you have to do things a little quicker than I do, because I've noticed that a lot of my boss strategies at the moment are pretty slow. And it's not a problem, it's going to help you get through the game, but when I eventually try and get better ranks, or maybe do a rank run, which I highly doubt will ever happen because there's no checkpoints on the bosses, and the bosses are very long, and they have multiple tiers, and it's just completely insane that they could make something so well checkpointed as Metal Gear Rising and Bayonetta, yet the wonderful 101, when you get to the bosses, you might as well be playing fucking Gradius, because it's like, oh, have you run out of lives? Shame. Start from the start again. See you later. You know, have you made one mistake? Boom. See you later. Like, it's incredibly cruel, and it's definitely a throwback to the more hardcore gaming, which some people will love. I happen to hate. You know, I'm one of those people that does enjoy rank, but I'm not good enough to be that insane perfectionist, so it completely stops me from even being able to attempt it for the most. But here comes the drill. The drill, I get the feeling you can probably reflect it somehow, maybe with the whip, or maybe the sword, or maybe one of the weapons that I don't have. I just use the hero time to flip through it. Super useful. I've also found out what my problem was with the audio on the Wii U as well. When I recorded the tutorial that I did for you that was live, I plugged my headphones into my Wii U controller because the Wii U does not have an optical input. I do not know why. It is the dumbest thing in the world. Almost every high quality headset that I've owned needed optical to work, and the Wii U has no optical port. It's fucking dumb. So to listen to it without it coming through my TV, I would either have to plug headphones into my television, which take, you know, a bloody jack, and I don't have any jacks yet or anything that jacks into them, you know, in a conventional manner. While you do this, as soon as you see that monster charging that blast, go into Unite Guts and then continue twisting his arm. At this point, you do not have to attack anything, just keep on twisting that arm. So when I did the tutorial, I plugged my headphones into the controller, because a really cool feature of the Wii U is if you plug the headphones in the controller, you can hear the game. And I'm like, this is amazing, this is such a cool touch, you know, it almost makes me forget there's no optical input. And it turns out when I plugged it in, no volume was going to the capture device, so the entire thing was quiet. So if you watch that live presentation tutorial thing I did, the music playing is from the soundtrack, and it's just me talking. You can't hear any of the impacts, you can't hear anything. And I was super pissed off because that was a 30-minute video, and I could have probably done it better if I'd have planned, or if I'd have done it again, or you know, maybe practiced a little bit. But I think some of the charm of my videos is the honest nature of them. You know, I do runs where they look incredibly practiced, but for the most, this is meant to help anyone. You know, it's not meant to just be for the guys who can do this shit in their sleep. It's for the person who has a Wii U, played the demo, and got nothing but bodied and hated his entire experience with it. You know, it's motivation for that person to go back and pick it up and realise that there's a really fun game here, and even though it does look like a Saturday morning cartoon, it's hard as balls. So this is my least favourite enemy in the game. It is flying little bastards, is what I call them. The thing with it is they're very hard to hit, and they do this very tiny laser which always hits me. I always get shot by them, and I don't know why. The way I fight them is I try and lock onto them with the crowd like that, and then I hit them with the sword, and I try and be as quick about it as I can. If I can get a full 100 members into a sword, I'll just cyclone their tits off and get rid of them that way. But it doesn't always work because they do fan out. And as you saw, I did get hit. I missed the Ukemi. It was a little disappointing. I got the parry there though, completely unintentional. Happens all the time. It's one of the blocks you always want on. Super useful for some fights. I've got a little fear. Oh god, Chris, use THs please. This is a civilized conversation. I have a theory as well about a counter exploit, which I'm going to do some testing on, I think, tonight. I might as well mention it now I've said it. Something I've noticed when I've been doing guts is every so often I'll guts into a hero counter. And to do the hero counter, it's just like the Moon of Malakar. You push the analog into the attack as it lands, exactly like Third Strike to do counters on that game. But here, it does a riposte. And the riposte is the biggest Unite morph of whatever weapon you currently have. without any battery, I think it gives you a free full hit of a really big Unite morph, so it's incredibly dangerous when used correctly. And what I think you can do is I think you can go into the safety of Unite Guts, which think of it as free iframes for any attack that's not spiky. And while you're in that, if the cannonball's still connected to Unite Guts, or even if the attack is still hitting the Unite Guts, if you flick the analog, I think you can cancel into a counter, but it doesn't cancel the Unite Guts. It just counters while you defend. And if this is true, it could be incredibly powerful, because if there's a boss where you have to be super defensive against them, you could put the hammer on with no intention of swinging it, do the Unite Guts, and then immediately hit it with the counter and do some big damage, because the hammer is mad damaging. But the turret here lasted a lot longer than normal, because you'll notice I'm firing them back incorrectly. For some reason the gun is firing them higher than it needs to be. Watch that, that's perfect. That's what you want. For some reason I wasn't getting that. I was firing them too high, and it's probably my fault, but at the same time I can't really control it because I don't get to aim. So for some reason it doesn't seem like that's working, because I'm not getting the score points for hitting it, and that's why this took so long. So I think, guys, the best way to do this is don't point the direction I'm pointing when it's going too wide. I think I only noticed that something was wrong when it was too late, because they seem to last forever. Another thing as well, normally I would disengage the gun after firing the bomb and run away and then re-equip it and shoot another one, but on this difficulty it costs batteries to do that, so you know, you'll be out of batteries before you can bloody blink. And it's a habit I have to break, because I love the speed of cancelling out of morphs into morphs, and you have to be a little bit more methodical on 101% hard. That right there is a bottle cap for, I believe, capturing so many fish. That was me trying to jump out of the water and I turned into a rocket. Happens a lot. Rocket makes you submerge. I did not know that. Ooh, these guys are cool. These are almost identical in my mind to the enemy from Bayonetta. They have a very similar kind of fighting style. Their natural weakness is the fist. However, you want to use the whip to get them out of the ground. Whenever they're in the ground, they're the more threat than they are when they are out of it. Sorry. And once they're out of it, swap to the fist and do big damage. Watch this. Fist does crazy damage against this enemy. I have no idea why. There are certain enemies that have, you know, affinities to certain things and weaknesses, and they have a weakness to fire, apparently. But a cool thing is too, they do an attack where their tail comes out of the ground like as a hook, and you can whip the hook of the tail and pull them out. You know, there's so much creativity in this game, guys, and that's why it guts me so much when I read the IGN review, because the person was essentially saying that the Unite morphs don't work, and you know, a lot of the fun just was sapped out of the game when they tried to draw something and they got something else. And does that happen? Hell yes. But is it generally your mistake the majority of the time? Pretty much, you know. It's so easy to blame the game and blame the input, but after a while, it's literally the learning curve. It's literally knowing how to do it, and it's not easy. Right now, I have no batteries, and I'm trying to fight, and it's not happening. You have to be careful. But I did a tweet to show the difference in player skill, because the IGN of Italy had a guy review it, and he gave it 9.5. I think the English or the American one, which was reviewed by, I forget the name of the lady, she's the Dark Souls kind of enthusiast, so apparently they give her the tougher games, which I found hilarious, because this game is hard, and apparently she just didn't really have the patience to learn how to draw the basic shapes. But she gave it like 7, and I'm sorry guys, but Call of Duties get fucking 10 for doing nothing but what they've always done at an incredible, you know, an incredibly refined way. Is it good? Yeah, it is. It's one of the most fluid and enjoyable first-person shooters imaginable, but it's essentially the world's greatest con. It's a palette swap with new assets that does the exact same thing it's been doing since 2007. It really is, and even if you love it, you have to admit it. And that's not a problem. Some of the greatest games that exist are a very refined formula. Why change what works? I understand it, but at the same time, When you're looking at this critically, there has to be a part of your collective consciousness that acknowledges it's the same thing. Assassin's Creed is the same thing. You know, all these games, like Bungie releasing Destiny, and everything I've seen from this game, it looks like a non-cel shaded Borderlands that's essentially Halo masquerading with loot. And it looks like the dullest fucking game on the planet. It's going to get 10 out of 10 by IGN because, you know, IGN had rate a funeral 10 out of 10. It's just daft. And then something like this that is so eclectic and so different. And do I think it's a 10? No, this game is not a 10. By no means a 10. But it's better than a 7. It just has to be said. Because it takes risks, it believes in itself, and it commits to being exactly what it wants to be. And it just doesn't take any bullshit, it doesn't pull any stops out for anybody else. Like, do you not like shooting games? Well, fuck you. There's several sections in this that you're gonna hate. You know, are you not very good when it comes to drawing things using a touchpad or an analog? Well, fuck you, because that is the main mechanic. You know, it doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't lead you through. You have to earn it. And if you're not willing to earn it, you're gonna die. And I just think it's such a special game. But once again, that thing's on the screen, blocking the screen to show you what I'm doing. But what I'm doing here is I'm recruiting some people, and I'm using the gun to vacuum up this battery. Watch how my character's moving. Do you see how he's kind of clipping? I'm holding the analog perfectly, and the movement here is just horrible. Whatever's happening in this room, the detection on where the geometry is and what the levels are is really bizarre, and it makes moving through it really strange. It's one of the only rough areas of the level design. I don't know why it works that way, it just kind of does. So now you've done that, do you see on the main screen how that white spot is going along the tiles like Mario Party? You have to shoot the thing on the gamepad as it lights up those wonderful areas, and you have to do all 3 of them to open the door. And right now, obviously, because there's a screen on my screen, I can't see the fucking thing. So I'm going to change it in a moment because I can't see. So all I have to do now is time it and then fire now. And once you do that, it opens the stadium, and it's going to enable us to move into the stadium and take on the second boss of this level, which is the big fire dude. And you can't see right now, but I'm on the gamepad trying to get out of that room, and as you saw from the movement before, it's kind of weird. You have to play to understand what I mean. Like, this game is so fluid, so dynamic, so well put together, and then those areas, they literally feel like Glitch City. But here is the first phase of this encounter. There's going to be a couple of standard dudes. I'm giving up on the names, guys. They're too fucking dumb. And it makes me really sad, and it's probably hilarious in Japan, where they might be really punny, but they just sound dumb, and they're very hard to remember, and it's almost in direct contrast to Bayonetta, where the names were so cool and interesting that you couldn't help but remember them. But what do you do here? You'll notice there's a massive cannon-y tower thing firing those balls. You want to suck them up with the pistol Wonder Green, and then you want to fire them back at the cannons. Once you destroy all the cannons, it's going to summon the man who killed Wonder Red's father, who is the first boss of the game. We're going to be fighting him on the next video, but we're going to do a little sample of him here. And it's super funny because I do what I thought at the time was a pretty cool performance against him. I end up juggling the boss and doing a massive combo that kills him really quickly. And then the section afterwards, I get absolutely shit-stomped because I don't really like it. It's one of those moments where you're trying to kill somebody, and because there's so much havoc happening on the screen, it can be quite difficult to do that. And then there's this baseball moment, and I just fuck it up. It's bad play, you know, 101, which is probably going to be something I'm going to use a lot throughout this. But here is the dude. He fights just like the monsters later on that are pretty much the exact same kind of thing as he is. What you want to do is hit him with attacks. If he goes to kick you, Unite Guts it. If he goes to punch you, Unite Guts it. If he does anything with his sword, get the hell out or dodge. If you don't, you'll take massive damage. Whenever he jumps, he comes down on his sword, evade through it, and continue to beat him up. That's a sword attack, you have to dodge it. There was a dodge, continue to combo. There's a punch, Unite Guts. Whenever you Unite Guts him, there's a chance you can launch him. But I think you can only really launch him when you break his sword and stun him. So you'll notice, keep comboing, there's Unite Guts, keep comboing him, and there, we broke his sword, we juggle him, and now we just start hitting him with everything we have. Swords, whips, fists, the job lot, hurricanes, cyclones, and then he runs away. He does his little speech. So what you're meant to do here is, there's going to be a bombardment of that bullshit that you just saw, and then there's going to be this fellow with a bat. So I try and kill him, and he avoids quite a lot, and then he hits me there. So I managed to get the Ukemi. My team are beating him up, and all you need to do is kill him and take his sword. But like, shit's going crazy, explosions are happening everywhere. Got another Ukemi, and I just couldn't do it. Like, it was really frustrating to have such a clean fight against the boss and then having this happen afterwards. And the funny part is, like, I thought the boss fight was awesome, and then I get the score at the end, and apparently the score disagrees with me. But he's going to charge at you, so we're going to counter him. That was my theory. Did you see it? How I did Unite Guts, and then I hit him with the hero counter? The camera goes weird, and I get hit there by a piece of artillery. I try to pick up the bat, but I don't get a chance to swing it in time, and I take a massive hit. And it's pretty rough right now. There, I missed my timing on it and pay the ultimate price. And I think from now on we should be okay, but be very careful. Did you notice how the enemies behind me up in the corner are still firing shit? That will hit you and it will kill you, especially if you're as low as me. And if you're better at baseball than I am, there's a bottle cap for hitting back every single one of these bombs without missing or failing, and I still don't have it because, as you saw, I suck at this moment. And it's one of those things where it looks kind of simple, but it's not, because when you press it, there's a very particular timing on the swing, and it's not as fast as you think it would be, so there's a little bit more of a methodical nature needed to do it. But once you hit it back, that is the end of the level. Just try not to be as sloppy on the final part, nothing too difficult just yet, and thank you very much for watching. You take care now.